Good morning and welcome to today's episode of Along the Towpath. On this very dreary and miserable day, I have the pleasure of being joined by Simon Thomas from Montpellier Legal, a lawyer who actually gets it, which is lovely to have. So we take his dogs for a long walk along the towpath. I hope you enjoy. Simon from Montpellier Legal. Welcome to Along the Towpath. You are our first non-estate agency type, whether it's estate agent or supplier. You're actually one of them, you're a lawyer.
Afraid so.
A solicitor, a lawyer, an owner of a law firm. So why don't you introduce yourself properly so everyone knows who you are.
Thank you. So I'm Simon Thomas, I'm the CEO of Montpellier Legal. We're a solicitors firm specialising in conveyancing.
So you're based, head office is?
Cheltenham.
Cheltenham. Okay, so right in the centre of the beautiful Cheltenham. Yeah?
Yeah, we're based initially in the Cotswolds. We thought it was a good part of the market to be within in terms of the quality of the property and the pricing. And we've rolled out branches since then, but into equally quality areas. That's the strategy.
Okay, so you're how old as a business?
We are coming up to 5 years old this spring.
Goodness me, and you've seen a bit of a meteoric rise over those 5 years, haven't you? So you started with just you in the back bedroom?
Literally, yeah. me in the study and a little assistant, but in a kind of 10 by 8 room. And I said to her one day we might have a few staff and have an actual office, which she raised her eyebrows and kind of doubted me. And I doubted myself at the time. I think I wasn't sure whether it would do much more than that, but yeah, we're coming up to 100 staff now in
within 5 years.
Under 5 years, yeah.
Goodness
and coming up to our 10th branch office. So it's gone well.
So where are your branches?
Wow.
I'll challenge you now.
Yeah, I need to pull up a piece of paper now. Well, we started in Cheltenham, and then we wanted to kind of dominate our own home county to start with.
Yeah.
So we went to Gloucester, Stroud, and then Cirencester. And then we've now rolled out to Worcester, Tewkesbury, Bath, and many more that not yet public knowledge.
not yet.
Not yet. Very soon.
Coming soon.
Yeah.
In a town near you, sort of thing, is it?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay, that's great. So, I mean, that's quite a growth path, isn't it? I mean, did you set out when you started day one in that back bedroom where with your little assistant, as you said, saying, "I'm going to do this. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to spend the next 5 years. I'm going to get to 100 lawyers." No.
But what I would say is that when along the journey, many people have said to me, when will enough be enough, or how big do you want to get to, or how many branches, how many staff, etc.
Take over the world.
No. And I always said that I don't want to set a number on it because there's no real need to, and it's a case of let's not give a number that can then be used against you. I'd rather just see how it goes.
So organically,
it's iterative. So it's we won't do anything quicker than we feel comfortable with.
Okay.
And yet we're not going to go slow just because we're cautious and scared. So it's a case of going at the pace we're comfortable with.
I like that. There's a lot to learn from that, isn't there, really? Because the world we're seeing in a state agency at the moment is that there's a lot of people growing very, very fast, us being one of them, but there's a lot of very ambitious people who are trying to take advantage of the world that is changing, whether it's the work from home environment, the sort of the influx of AI and all this sort of stuff in terms of how the world is being shaped.
Yeah.
There's an awful lot of people who are looking to grow quick, so you would suggest that perhaps being a little bit more cautious on that is a better plan?
I wouldn't say necessarily cautious, but I think what's important is not to try and grow at an arbitrary pace, not to set a specific number, and it's got to be that same number every year for some corporate reason. I think it's much better to work with partners and establish relationships at their natural speed, and sometimes that can be really quick, because if you get a good relationship between a good law firm and a multi-branch agency, then obviously from the law firm's perspective you go from not having that work to suddenly having multiple branches feeding lots of work. So that's one agent you gained, and yet you gained kind of several agents and essentially got multiple branches giving you the work. So that's an example where it goes really quickly. Other times you might be a really quality agent, will only ever have one branch, but you really want to work in that sector, that part of the market, and it's good profitable work, and you just want to work with that one small agency. So it might not change the world for you as a business, but it gets you strategically into more of a higher end. Then that works too.
That's your beginning, is it? That's where you start your growth. It's we've identified an opportunity with an agent, and then we can build organically from that location.
Yeah, and I don't mind I don't mind sharing that we have actually turned down quite a lot of large panel type contract work
I'm sure,
with agents. I won't name any names, but 50 plus branch agencies. We've said thank you, but no thank you, because we don't want to grow as quickly as we can. We want to grow as smartly and as strategically as we can.
Which makes a lot of sense, doesn't it, really? Because I suppose that at that point you're making sure that it's a chosen path. You're sort of sticking to your values, I suppose.
Well, I think the thing is, it's not my first rodeo, so I did set up a previous firm, grew it and sold it, and obviously you make mistakes, whether it's the first child or anything else, along the way, but you learn from that, hopefully. And so I've learned from that, and I've now putting into practice where we're not just taking on as much work as quickly as you can, and a short-termism approach. It's the opposite. It's actually, well, the work will come to you if you build quality, build more capacity and then go and get some more work to fill it, rather than, oh, we're too busy, let's just grab any lawyer to try and cover the overheating of work. So it's a more longer term approach to it, I'd say.
So quite a strategy involved in that, rather than just playing hungry hippos with work or...
Yeah, exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's interesting then. So let's just pause. So people are going to send me hate mail because I've got a lawyer on the towpath, and it's because let's be honest, you are the root cause of all evil and problems as a part of the industry, to all the issues in the property world as far as estate agents are concerned, and as far as lawyers are concerned, traditionally, it's us as estate agents who are highly unprofessional and cause problems the other way around. So one would ask, why are we talking? And the reason that I wanted to get you along the towpath with your dogs was because you do things differently. You've taken a different approach, haven't you?
I've never ever known why lawyers and agents have this adversarial approach to things, have this this kind of us against them type thing, and I think it's the opposite should be the case. It should be that it's an overused word sometimes, but I do use this word a lot. Collaborative. People should be working as a team because you're all trying to get to the same end goal. So why are we fighting each other?
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense. A lot of my personal friends and a lot of my actual staff are agents or former agents,
and that's why I thought it was worth exploring and having a bit more of a discussion about it.
Yeah.
And the reason we're doing this and the reason we've actually started working together is because of the approach. So talk us through that. You say that a lot of your staff are agents.
Former agents, yeah.
Former agents,
yeah.
Forgive me. They've been the sensible
Hopefully they
ones.
don't go back to it.
So why? What does that look like? Why does a law firm look at agents and go, do you know what, in our firm, that would make sense?
Well, I think the arrogance of lawyers is really misplaced with conveyancing, because we are downstream of you, aren't we? We are given the work if we are nice and we do a good job by you guys. We're not kind of, oh, why are we bothering to pick up and give you updates on cases? To me that's crazy, the latter. So we should be grateful for the work we get given, and we should pay back by obviously doing a good job and thanking you and hopefully working with you again. That's the mentality of our staff. And obviously if you've got several former agents within the company with that mindset too, it spreads, and it helps me spread the message within the company that
increases the awareness.
That's how we should be.
Yeah.
We should be doing things in a collaborative way.
Yeah, it sounds really groundbreaking, but it shouldn't be, should it?
It sounds obvious, but most firms don't seem to understand it. It's strange. But it's not just about the odd minority of staff that are, not odd in an odd way, but the few staff that are former agents, because there's a lot of staff that aren't former agents, obviously. And it's making sure that everyone's on the same page, that we work together with agents as our friends. We don't see them as blocks to the deal or irritants along the way of the deal. We actually ask them for their help. Can you please help us chase this other lawyer up? Can you unblock this chain for us? Can you speak to the customer about the fixture and fitting? Whatever it might be, we try and work as a team to get through problems.
So what does good look like in terms of a relationship between agent and lawyer then?
I think we need to definitely avoid any kind of point scoring. So, if you can't get hold of someone, or if a customer says something's gone wrong, then let's not just jump and assume that the agent said it was this price and it's not, or the lawyer said this and they're not going to exchange. I think communication, if the lawyer and the agent have their really regular communication between them, then it will greatly helps to not have Chinese whispers and misunderstandings between the two.
So we had Claire Yates along the towpath. Oh goodness, nearly a year ago now, I should think. And Claire and I go back a long way, and we've put various solutions in place for agents and done training and appeared on stages at conferences in front of 500 lawyers, which was a nerve-wracking experience for an agent.
Yeah.
And she said the same thing, funnily enough. Now, she obviously trains lawyers and agents, but what's fascinating is the word communication. So how do you bake that into the process?
Yep.
How do you insist as a business owner of 100 staff, most of which are lawyers, that you ensure that the agent and the lawyer have a good enough relationship to ensure that that communication is maintained?
Well, first of all, we don't give our lawyers any hiding spaces. So we don't have generic numbers and faceless kind of, corporate veil. We have direct lines to the individual lawyers and team, which are given to the agent
Well, they love
at
that.
the get-go. And no, because they understand it and they embrace it. They know that they're there, we're here to help each other out, to get deals through and celebrate together, not the opposite. So yeah, we have direct lines of communication to start with, not some kind of generic call centre number and you can't get through to the lawyer. That's the worst of all things. So direct communication is one aspect of that. We have some good technology that most firms haven't adopted yet.
Okay, such as?
So we have an app for customers, and it's not just for customers. So the introducer gets the updates as well as the customer. So it provides updates throughout the whole transaction.
Okay.
And it's not just we've exchanged, now we're going to complete. It's not kind of 2 or 3 in a 3-month period. It's a multitude of updates, such as we've raised inquiries, we've had replies in, searches are ordered, searches are back.
Right.
That's just examples of the type of communication that the customer and the agent at the same time get given. So then the customer's not phoning the agent for the update from the lawyer, and then the agent's phoning the lawyer for the update, can't get through, and everyone's frustrated. Everyone knows what's going on without picking up the phone and even needing to call on a problematic issue like that. But if there's something genuine that's come up from another lawyer, for example, then that's what we are then free to speak to the agent actually and the customer and actually resolve those types of real issue.
So where did you get that idea, that sort of slightly left field idea that communication is key? What's happened in your career that's made you sit there and go, do you know what? I'm going to make a difference, and the difference doesn't have to be about anything grand. It's about actually going back to the basics.
I think it's about relationships, and I think whether you're dealing with a relationship with a client, with your colleagues, or obviously with other third parties in the industry, such as agents or mortgage brokers. If you don't communicate, you don't know what's going on, and they don't know what's going on, and everyone gets irate. And even in a personal context, if you engage a company's services and you don't hear from them for a long time, how are you going to feel about that? Not great, are you? So I try to take those basic concepts into a business and make sure that they're truly actually borne out in practice.
Okay, so as an estate agency then, from our perspective, if you were to put yourself in our shoes, God forbid, what would you recommend to agents to improve the relationship with lawyers?
I think have a meeting with the decision makers within the firms you want to deal with, and set down and agree service level standards. Say this is what we expect, this is what we need from you if we're going to keep giving you the business.
So strategic.
Proper conversations
at the early stages in terms of a strategic partnership and what the relationship should look like.
Yeah. I mean, and as we all know, agents have got their pick of lawyers. They can choose whoever they like, whether it's a referred, paid lawyer or not. Either way is fine. But the point being, work with someone that you have a trust in to actually themselves, but their company to do what they say they'll do, and then prove that consistently.
Well, that makes sense, doesn't it? Really, that was common sense, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
Lots of common sense going on here.
Yeah. Okay. So what are your lawyers seeing at the moment that are big headaches? What are the bottlenecks and the challenges that your lawyers are seeing?
There's always quirky things that come up. Obviously, in the last couple of years, anything leasehold with Building Safety Act has been an issue for people. It's boring but important area for our London work. Yeah. Other than that, a lot of septic tanks are cropping up as never before in
especially with the rain
in the countryside. Right now, even this week, we've had a big issue with one. Where we had the seller say it was a septic tank. The buyer's surveyor said it was a cesspool, and obviously that has different connotations for a lender and their requirements in terms of compliance and things. So that literally gets in the way of however hardworking and however much you genuinely want to get a transaction through, and the client does, and the agent does, and the seller does. If you've got contradicting information like that, we can't just ride roughshod and say, oh, that's fine, just wave it through, because a lawyer acts for the lender as well as the as the client.
Yes.
You have to
Which
have
is often
clarification.
forgotten by the agent, isn't it?
Well, and the client. but
Yeah.
that's okay. That's understandable because they don't get to see these interesting 50-page instruction leaflets from the lenders that they send to the lawyers. I think the lenders even say you must not disclose this to anyone else, so we can't even show what we're bound by. But suffice to say that the red tape and that side of conveyancing has got worse over the years. More and more, it's become more onerous from lenders to lawyers. And that doesn't help for a slick, quick process, frankly.
So what would you say to an agent today who points the finger at lawyers saying your industry is ultimately the issue here? What would you say to try and push them away from that as a mindset?
I wouldn't want to fully push them away from it because I'm not here to defend all lawyers. I think, sadly speaking, and I wish it wasn't the case in some respects, a lot of my counterparts up and down the country don't always get it right. Let's face it, none of us get it right all the time. And it has got a lot to answer for in some respects. But that doesn't mean we're all bad. We shouldn't all be tarred with the same brush. And like in any industry, you get a few great ones, lots of average ones, and a few, or more than a few bad ones.
Yeah, more than a few, sadly, yeah. But then all industries have the same, as you
so
say.
So I wouldn't necessarily push them away from their point, but I would just say that
seek the good ones.
It's not smart to just blame lawyers because it doesn't make sense. It's always going to be one person's fault. Clearly, when you've got third parties, and it's not just lenders, although lenders, as I say, can become quite onerous more than people realise now with lawyers. In addition to that, if you're buying a leasehold property, you've got managing agents, you've got provision of third-party information can take months. And however much you just want to, just get the exchange through. So we can't. We've got a lender. We have to check these things are in place. Otherwise, we're literally breaching.
It's about managing expectations, isn't it? Ultimately.
Yeah.
I think, to sort of bounce around a little bit.
Yeah.
And again, communication being ultimately key. And having a conversation really early about what the process is going to look like and setting milestones, almost like a Gantt chart. These are the steps we are going to have to go through. Yeah. And these are the anticipated dates. And these are the caveats because we're reliant on third parties.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's fundamental, isn't it?
Yeah, and if you've got a leasehold purchase with a mortgage, it's not realistic to think that's going to whiz through in 3 to 4 weeks ordinarily, compared to a cash freehold purchase, which actually should and could and should.
And more often than not, at the moment, what are the average timescales? Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of days, it feels, isn't it? When we
apparently so.
It's relentless as an industry, but quiet opportunity for you to do a little plug for yourself. What's your average days and timescales at the moment for transactions?
I take you back to the last point really, which is that national averages or even a firm's averages entirely vary depending on what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
So we've done freehold exchanges we've literally exchanged in a week or less than a week.
Yeah.
We've done search indemnity insurance, explained to our client that actually they're protected without getting the searches, which they understand. And in America, they title insure as standard rather than doing full title checks. So, as long as you're innovative and try to come up with kind of creative solutions, you can do things much quicker than average.
Because this is where, as estate agents, we get a lot of pushback. The default answer, as a lawyer would often say, you just think an indemnity is going to solve the problem and get things through quickly. But actually, if it's a case of thinking beyond the transaction, of looking for the solution, then as an estate agent, as you say, as a lawyer working together on this, trying to find and seek the solution, then that's the best course, isn't it?
You can't always get indemnity for everything, despite what some people say, just indemnify it all. But you can sometimes, and sometimes I've known lawyers say, no, we're not getting indemnity, we want a deed of variation or deed of rectification, when there's no actual requirement from the lender or the client or anyone asking for that, other than the lawyer choosing that that's what they want to do. And I fundamentally disagree that lawyers should get in the way of deals in that way. And we absolutely, anything we can indemnify, we absolutely will as standard, because why wouldn't you do that?
Yes.
Your client their best interest is getting their transaction through, I presume. So let's try and do that.
Yeah. So let's focus on motivation then.
Yeah.
I've always maintained that the fundamental difference between an estate agent and a lawyer is that we have different commercial priorities. So we're motivated on speed. You're motivated on thoroughness, perhaps, is the stereotype. But you think slightly differently.
Yeah, I think you're being a bit generous to lawyers there. I thought you were going to say billing. But we don't do that. We don't set targets to our lawyers on billing. I have worked at lots of other firms before setting up Montpellier, and it's just the traditional model. You know, they do time recording, they charge per hour, which goes against the whole principle of, you know, if a client wants to get a deal through quickly, like you say, and rightly so, often,
They're motivated to do more.
And yet the commercial fundamental for a lawyer is that, well, obviously, it goes without saying, the longer it takes, unfortunately, the more you get, the more you charge, or fortunately in the lawyer's case. So we don't do that. We do everything fixed fee, and we like the certainty that gives clients and to us. We know what we're going to get as long as we do a good job. And therefore, why take longer than you need on it? As long as you do all the required checks and never do less than the minimum. We always do more than the minimum, and you know, and get the deal through.
But it's about our process, isn't it? It's about making sure it's tick, tick, tick. But you have a slightly different approach to making sure the chains are progressed, haven't you?
Yeah, a couple of things we've done. So we target our lawyers not on billing. We target our lawyers on getting exchanges through, which I don't know any other firm doing that.
Groundbreaking.
Well, it might not sound exciting.
Use that word.
It might not sound exciting, but actually, it's a fundamental different
common
mindset.
sense, isn't it?
Keep coming back to that too.
Yeah.
But think about it. If a customer wants the deal to go through, the agent wants the deal to go through, and we should want the deal to go through, then let's align what the targets are for the people doing the work, i.e. the lawyers. Let's align those with that fundamental. Not, let's charge abortive billing if it doesn't go through and we don't care. Let's charge lots if it goes through, great, we're happy as well. It's like, no, let's actually think, look, we're not happy if it doesn't go through because the agent isn't happy, the customer's not happy. Let's be in the same boat, not different boats. And that's what we've done, and it's worked really well.
And chains?
So we have a dedicated sales progressor, and dare I say, a former estate agent again, that
hollowing out the industry.
That actively, not quite, but actively
taking the best talent then, maybe.
Some of it. That actively chases up and down chains for us, chases the lawyers for us, speaks to all the agents up and down the chain, and proactively tries to flush out so we can get more exchanges through.
So you have an ex-agent sat in a pod with lawyers, and when those lawyers have a problem with a progression of a chain, they pick up the phone and try and unblock the problem.
100%. That's exactly what we've got.
Working with agents.
Yes.
Groundbreaking, Siren. Good
Just
friend.
common sense, but
well, it is, isn't it? Really, I mean, aligned thinking. So, what was it that actually led you to start thinking like an estate agent, but with a lawyer's mindset?
Well, whenever I've gone into an agency's office, I always say, what's important to you? And I keep getting the same answer. So I think, well, if everyone up and down the country is telling me the same thing, then let's actually listen to them and actually adopt that. So let's get communication, let's get speed, because they're the two most important things. Get the deal through promptly and communicate along the way. That's what I've been, you know, from Leeds to London and everywhere in between. That's what people tell me. All from people selling one-bed houses to £20 million properties in Mayfair. Honest to God, they all say the same thing: speed and communication. So let's adopt that. Let's all lawyers adopt that right now.
So how do you get that message to insert name of a certain age of lawyer who's sat behind a mahogany desk with piles of paper in front of them, that refuses steadfastly to pick up the phone to an estate agent and speak to them and have any empathy, sympathy, understanding or compassion or care and consideration to what is actually in the best interests of everybody in the transaction, including the lenders, because they want the deal done.
You said there'd be no hard questions today, Ross. I don't think you'll necessarily change the mindset of every last lawyer here. I don't think we can realistically expect to do that. Don't give your business to such firms, is all I can say.
Well, that was going to be my next question: is how do you what would you recommend to estate agents? Make sure it's carefully given to.
You know, the majority of lawyers are out there and doing property. They might not be what you want to work with, but there's a minority, I should say, that absolutely willing and urging you to send work so that, you know, those such firms can work with you and actually get your deals through properly. So, yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, sounds like it. Common sense almost.
Yes.
Yeah, not groundbreaking, just common sense.
Yes.
Yeah, good. Okay, so that's great. So we've talked about the quality in terms of what good looks like, Simon, and then the sort of natural next question then, as we've just been discussing, the speed, with the sort of universal expansion speed of which you're growing, how do you maintain quality? Because trying to keep that level of consistency in your quality when you're growing as fast as you can, as you have, must be quite challenging, isn't it?
Yeah, I actually get asked that quite a lot, Ross, and it's a good question. And what we'd have to do is we have to build, as a fundamental part of what we do into the teams, we have to build that into our process and our system. So what I mean by that is that, we talked earlier about teams being targeted on exchanges, not billing, and that's worked really well. But that's not the only element to that. So the condition to the teams of that is that not just getting deals for any cost in terms of poor quality, for example. So they specifically have to get a certain number of top rated reviews from the cases they're working on each month in order to achieve their overall targets and bonuses. So they can't. Yeah, they have to get.
And that's Google reviews, is it?
Or whether we can switch it across, whether it's Trustpilot, Google. So we do have very strong reviews on all platforms. But we wouldn't have that if lawyers were just whipping stuff through quickly. But actually, the customer thinks, well, that's great, you did it quickly, but I never heard from you. And it would be nice to know your first name, kind of thing. So we've built in this thing where the relationships have to be nurtured on each case, so that the customer actually feels like an individual, not a number.
Well, that's great, isn't it? Because that you're sort of, again, you're increasing the touchy-feeliness of it, rather than speak to anyone, it doesn't matter who, there's nobody qualified to speak to, you just got to get it through, some faceless lawyer will sign it off at the end. You're actually making sure that it's very personal, the relationship as well.
Very much so. So we don't try to, we're not rushing to the bottom to be scraping the barrel on fees. We try to put our pricing structure in the mid-market, but deliver excellence in terms of quality and speed, because then, although the customer's not paying the bottom price, hopefully most enlightened buyers and sellers will understand that you get what you pay for. And in our case, hopefully you get more than you pay for, because you're paying middle fees, but you're getting more than that in return. So the actual value proposition is strong. But we wouldn't be able to do that if we did one bit well, the other bit would make people feel worthless.
Gotcha. It's got to be consistency across
quality.
So, okay, well, that kind of makes sense, really. So, when is enough? When is too much? At what point do you sit there and go, do you know what? That's maximum size. That's the level we should be aiming at. Or is it purely a case of, well, where there's a need, we'll do it? Do you have a target in your mind?
So there will be a time where we hit the ceiling of actually the market space that we're in, because we're in the mid-market. We try not to compete for the bottom end work in certain parts of the country. There's a horses for courses. So there's only so many transactions per year in certain southern regions that we want to mainly work in, and central regions we want to work in. So that's about 88 years' time, because the market is so big, and we are a pinprick within an ocean.
Yes.
So it's going to take us decades to get there. So the reality is, continue to grow, because there's no natural stopper in the next decade or so.
But you've got to minimise the risk to yourself as well, in terms of making sure that you don't act like an elastic band that eventually snaps. You've got to, and that ultimately comes down to your systems, your processes, your quality, and consistency.
Yeah, the good thing for us at the management level to know at my firm is that we are rapidly growing market share in what's been a relatively flat market over the last 3 years. So it's not like we've just gone up as the market's gone up, because the market hasn't gone up transaction number wise. So that tells me that we're getting something very seriously right. And even in a contracting market, to a certain extent, agents, even more than before, need quality in terms of their lawyers doing the deals to get the transactions through, because they become even more essential to get through. So even in a contracting market, transaction-wise, we're not concerned. Given that we are premium priced as well, upper mid pricing, we can be a bit dynamic and flexing on that. We can reduce slightly our fees and maintain high levels of enough levels of work
to what's required.
So we're commercially aware of things like that.
Okay, so let's touch on recent events in terms of what came out in the press a few months ago. It's fair to say you're quite ambitious, and you like to keep yourself somewhat busy. We were laughing when you arrived at what's going on in your life at the moment, which is, it's fair to say, a lot. New baby, another new baby on the way, getting married. Moved house.
Investment in the business.
Investment in the business. So I won't touch on the bits prior to that. Let's talk about the investment in the business. So obviously, if you've set your sights on world domination, you can't do it with a pea shooter and a whistle. You've actually got to get some investment in, haven't you? So you've managed to secure that in the last 6 to 12 months.
Yep.
Which, as we all know, for those of us who've been in business, it's never a quick or easy process.
No.
So talk us through that. You've had some big success there.
Thank you. Yeah,
Congratulations, man.
Thank you. Yeah, in October last year, we took on an investment from a company called the Foresight Group, based in the Shard in London, and we actually were fortunate enough to have 3 different investment companies come to us wanting to invest in us.
Fantastic.
Which was nice. And rather than pick the one offering the most upfront money, for example, I picked the one that I felt was the best partner for us.
The synergy was there between them.
In many ways. Mainly goes back to what we were saying earlier about not being arbitrary in terms of their expectations of growth. They are what they call an evergreen fund. Not all private equity is, but they are, which basically means that there's no end date by which they've got to invest and then rip all the money back out from their companies. They haven't got to force sell their companies, meaning they have to rush a certain growth scale in the way. Yep. So they literally, and one of their mantras is patient capital, which I loved. When I saw that, I loved that, because that told me that they will, I mean, not that I'm patient, and I'm impatient to kind of grow quickly and do really well, but it meant that we could do it at this rate the management team are already doing it, not at some new, even higher, not necessarily the correct speed. So I really, really like that.
What does that enable you to do? Because it's no small amount of money, and it's a great purse for you to sit there and build your strategy. But what does it enable you to do as a firm?
Yeah, good question. So by taking a strategic investment like we've done in Foresight Group, it takes us to another level. It gives us a additional assistance at the management level. We've appointed a very successful, experienced gentleman, Tom Hartley, as our chairman, for example.
And the funds allow you to pay for somebody of such experience.
It's all built in. We've taken on a very experienced CFO who's got, he's a former CEO and CFO of other national-sized mortgage industry companies, for example. So, taking on additional individuals with a career's worth of experience to sit on our board, on top of what we already, the excellence we already had with Martin St Quinton, who's the owner of Gloucester Rugby. He's already a non-exec for us. So, we've added quality to quality there. That in itself is great. But the actual Foresight Group, they've invested in different industries, such as Mowgli, the restaurant chain, and they've gone from a small branch that they had in Liverpool.
They see the concept rather than the specific industry.
Yeah, they spot the opportunity in different sectors of something they feel can be good enough quality to be able to roll out on a national level within a certain part of its market. And they recognised us, and as did these other companies. But we particularly felt synergy with Foresight, and they now want us to continue doing what we're doing. We don't need to speed up the growth because our growth is already phenomenal.
Yes.
So they just want us to keep doing more of what we're doing.
Gives you the comfort without focusing on money.
Yeah, but obviously we've gone from a small company to a small to medium-sized company, and one day we want to be a proper mid-sized company. So their expertise and knowledge of other companies already doing that will give us that help and advice.
Morning. Hi there, sorry for getting in your way.
Will give us their experience of doing that for other companies and businesses and other sectors gives rather than learn from our own mistakes, we can learn from others' mistakes. They've already learnt lessons that we can take on board. So that speaks to me. I've never run a mid or large company before, but I'd like to run this one. Yep. But obviously without making mistakes along the way, if we can avoid too many of those by having this strategic advice and partner that will help guide us to go from a great little company to an excellent bigger company.
That's great, isn't it? And there's a lot to learn from that. And I think, a lot of the people who watch this are independent agents or small business owners who, whether they're suppliers to the industry or part of something bigger, there's a lot of investment out there that's looking for the right type of business to get stuck into, isn't it? And we sit there and it's all very woe is me in the world at the moment, isn't it? We're not sure what's going to happen next in the government, and we're not sure what's going to happen next overseas, and we're not quite sure what's going to happen next politically or economically. But actually, there's a lot of money out there, and with the right focus and attention, people are prepared to invest, aren't they? So what's the best way to position yourself to make yourself look attractive to an investor? What sort of hoops did you have to jump through to look good to an investor?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the mantras I've always tried to take with both the companies I set up was that try to imagine in your head from day one that you're the big company, and then so all the decisions you make along the way are natural growing pains rather than unexpected growing pains. You know, you can scale up because you always intended to scale up, rather than why now I've got to get a second office or something because the first one doesn't fit anymore. Well, if you have a plan of doing that, it helps along the way.
So it's
foresight.
Putting a plan in place and being clear.
Yes, it is. Yeah, and also it goes without saying, but I will say it, that technology, even dare I say for lawyers, technology is crucial now in terms of being at the forefront of that. And actually, investment companies, they don't want to invest in some old partnership that's got no technology. That doesn't work for them at all. They know that that's a bygone era that's soon to be forever gone. So we try and strive to be as advanced as we possibly can with our use of technology. And we are tech enabled at the moment. We're not a tech company, we're not a software company, but we are trying to be.
So you're using lots of other bits and bobs to make your business possible, but in time you'll want to grow something for yourself, I assume?
Well, we are not necessarily.
Okay.
We are a professional services business. We're a law firm, and we're not masquerading or pretending to be a tech startup or tech company. Sure. But what we do want to do is be at the very forefront of what the tech enables us as lawyers to do. So that's how I describe us.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. Lovely. Okay, so what we do as one of the last things then, Simon, and it's going to be a bit different for you, we ask a controversial opinion.
Okay.
Which we'll still do, but because you're not in our industry, you're actively looking from the other side,
Yeah.
or not the other side, but from a slight distance. I'll ask the question, what is your controversial opinion about the property industry, no matter where you sit in it, that perhaps you wouldn't necessarily discuss openly and ordinarily? What would you sit there and go, do you know what, this really gets under my skin, and I think nobody talks about it enough? I've blindsided you with that, haven't I?
You have a bit. I think to a certain extent, the public, I don't think they understand how much effort both lawyers and even more so agents, because you have to physically go out all the time, and sometimes viewers don't even turn up, and they're fake buyers. We had one recently where poor agent was just gone months down the road of trying to placate a irate seller, because the buyer literally would turn up with fake documents saying, look, there's my money, it's coming from overseas. And yeah, the amount of effort goes into, as I said, my friends are agents too. Your jobs is actually not to be underestimated. And as everyone talks about AI and tech, and there's a place for all those things, but ultimately we're humans. Humans want to often go and physically see this physical asset they're going to buy, and therefore someone's got to show it to them normally, and it's you guys. So it's, I think a lot of people don't actually value agents enough.
So your controversial opinion is that estate agents have a tough job. I think we'll take that. I think that's fantastic.
I think it is, and you have to work at weekends.
This is it. You don't have that, actually. Lovely. Well, Simon, thank you for taking the time to join us today. I think that's really fascinating. I think there's a lot to learn from what Montpellier are doing. I think you are mixing it up, you're stirring the pot, but deploying common sense, and that's something which isn't quite so common as they say, is it? But no, thank you so much for joining.
Welcome.
Really enjoyed the chat.
Yeah,
and
me too.
let's go back and get warm, shall we?
Sounds
and
good.
Dry.
Yep.
Lovely. Thank you, Simon.
Thanks, Ross.